안녕하세요. 이슈와 뉴스 속에 숨어있는 의미를 파헤쳐보는 코의 인사이트. 저는 진행을 맡은 이은주입니다. 최근 인공지능이 정말 큰 화두죠. 우리의 삶으로 점차 스며들고 있는 이 인공지능, 일상생활은 물론이고 산업과 의사결정 영역까지도 확장이 되고 있는데요. 여기서 중요한 문제는 우리가 쓰는 대부분의 과정에서 이게 어떻게 결과를 도출하는지조차도 모르고 있다는 점이 될 것 같습니다. 그렇기 때문에 오늘은 더욱더 복잡해지고 있는 이 AI를 보다 명확하게 만들기 위해 시작된 프로젝트인 ZeroG에 대한 이야기를 준비해봤는데요. ZeroG의 대표이신 마이클 하인리히 직접 이곳에 모셨습니다. 바로 인사해보도록 하겠습니다. Hi, Michael.
안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
Nice to be here.
So good to have you here with us today. Could you please say hi to our viewers first?
Of course. Hi, everyone. 안녕하세요.
Okay, so let me start with something really simple. Could you tell me about your project, what ZeroG is?
Yeah, ZeroG is what we call decentralized AI. And what we're doing fundamentally is to make AI transparent, verifiable, and then ultimately safe. And it's directly opposed to something what we call black box AI, where you have no visibility into where the data came from, who labeled the data, what weights and biases of the model are, what version of the model you're getting. All of that's completely opaque. And we want to create a transparent, safe AI.
Okay, then, as we all know, most AI today still runs on like AWS or Google Cloud, and that's all centralized. So let me ask you this, how is ZeroG's decentralized AI infrastructure actually different from those big cloud providers?
Yeah, so you can think of it, if you're familiar with something like Airbnb, for example, Airbnb doesn't own any of the hotels that it serves. So very similarly, in a decentralized kind of environment, we don't own any of the infrastructure. People can participate in a trustless manner on the network. They can provide their GPUs, they can provide their storage devices, and then be participants in the overall network. And so that's what makes decentralization different, because we don't own the underlying hardware.
I see. So a lot of people nowadays is already familiar with AI technology, but we don't actually know how data went in or how decisions are made. So I'm curious, how does ZeroG make AI more transparent for business-wide?
Yeah, so we basically combine two cutting-edge technologies, which is the AI compute and AI workloads together with blockchains. And the properties within blockchains are that they are fundamentally transparent because it's an open ledger. And so when something happens, let's say somebody queries a model and puts in a prompt, that's called an inference request. That inference request goes to a graphics card. That graphics card has what's known as a TE, or Trusted Execution Environment, runs the computation. Once the computation is done, then there's going to be an entry on the blockchain. And so if somebody wants to say that, hey, did Michael actually do this prompt on this model with this kind of timeline, then they can verify it on the blockchain. And so that's where the transparency comes from. You have full provenance. And if somebody modifies something about the prompt, there'll be another entry on the blockchain. And so you can actually see the history over time. This is very different from black box AI, and this is specifically one particular fear that we had in creating ZeroG, is that if agents and AI become smarter and smarter, what's going to keep AI from covering its tracks? Let's say it wants to do something negative. It breaks into a database, changes some entries, puts in some deepfake images into it, and then says, hey, I've done all my work, now give me my reward, even though it didn't do it. So in centralized or black box AI, AI can cheat. Versus with blockchains, that's virtually impossible.
I see. Then they say also AI with blockchain is a super competitive space these days. So many projects claim they're doing similar things. So can you please tell us directly what makes ZeroG truly stand out from them? What's the strongest differentiator?
Yeah, there's 3 points to that. The first one is that we're the leader in decentralized AI research. We published 5 research papers recently, 4 of which are in top AI conferences. One of the papers is actually a paper where for the first time we trained a 107 billion parameter model fully decentralized. That wasn't possible before. It's 3x the previous record. And we took research from Google called DialoCo, improved the communication latency by about 357 times, and then created DialoCo X to train this large-scale model. So that's just one example. So leaders in research. Then ZeroG is a one-stop shop environment. when you're trying to be a builder and you're used to all the centralized AI services, you have many APIs, you go to one place and you can do everything. In Web3 AI, you have to go to 20 different places to actually figure out how to build something fully decentralized. And we made that very simple. It's a one-stop shop. Everything you need is here. And then finally, we have basically the fastest infrastructure and largest ecosystem to be a part of. And so these three factors make ZeroG unique in the space.
Wow. That's cool. Then here's something I think many viewers will find also very fascinating. AI uses like massive data sets, right? So much bigger than what normal blockchains can handle. So I'm wondering, how does ZeroG process such large-scale data efficiently?
Yeah, so we needed to re-architect a lot of the infrastructure. And so we're still a young company, we're 2 years old. And so the first years were really spent on the infrastructure development. And we needed to build something that's called a layer 1 first, that's infinitely scalable. That's where you execute your programs effectively. As part of that, there's something called the data availability layer, which does the data throughput. And we figured out a way to move away from what, for example, Ethereum, when we started, has 80 kilobytes per second of throughput, which modern data centers do hundreds of gigabytes, even terabytes. And so you're basically 1 million times off from where you need to be. We figured out a way to parallelly scale that data availability layer so it's also infinitely scalable. So that's part of the blockchain. Then we have a storage layer. So that's kind of for memories and to store models and to store training data. Again, fully decentralized. And then finally, we also have different components, like our version of the App Store as a service marketplace. And then finally, we have something called AI alignment nodes, which are like the police force of the system. And so together, all of that is called the decentralized AI operating system.
Okay, your techniques are really like outstanding compared to the others. Then which companies are already testing or exploring OG?
Yeah, it's still early days. We just released our mainnet about a month ago. But as part of the network partners that we have companies like Google, NTT Digital, Gumi, and many other top kind of validators already testing the system. And we're also working with some of the best brands on the Web3 side, such as Chainlink and Binance and Layer 0 and so on. And then we also have many research partnerships with institutions like Microsoft and China Mobile, NTU, Stanford. And so it's early days, but very exciting to see some of the kind of traction coming. And also starting to chat with some major governments around the world, because it's particularly applicable to governmental use cases too.
Wow, so enterprise demand is still very strong.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
That's very good. Then as the executive chairman of a NASDAQ-listed digital asset treasury managing ZeroG tokens, what was the original idea or motivation behind creating this system?
Yeah, so digital asset treasuries are very synergistic. So basically the whole raison d'etre of a digital asset treasury is to increase the number of tokens per share. And in this case, it's a ZeroG token. And so it's very much a long-term way for institutions to participate in the digital economy. And so that's why we wanted to create the company ZeroStack to enable that. And so if you look at the equity holder base of ZeroStack, you'll find names like JP Morgan and BlackRock and Citadel. And so it gives institutional access to this particular asset class.
Cool. Then in Web3, also incentives matters a lot. So who actually participates in the ZeroG ecosystem and how are people rewarded?
Yeah, so there's what I call the supply side and the demand side. So on the supply side, you have companies like GPU providers like an Aether or Akash and many other data centers that participate, as well as validators that then validate the transactions themselves. And so they're effectively rewarded by usage. So the more the network gets used, the more reward they get effectively. On the storage side, we created a novel mechanism called proof of random access, for example. So the issue when you're dealing with decentralized systems is that you don't know your counterparty necessarily. And so you can't, it's a trustless system, so you don't necessarily need to know who it is, but you need to be assured that your data is stored safely. And so you need to come up with verification mechanisms like proof of random access so that you know that the data is always going to be there when you need it. So anyways, that's the supply side. Demand side includes many application builders. So right now we're focused on building effectively a liquidity layer and a DeFi ecosystem, and then an AI application layer as well. And so it's a lot of initially Web3 AI companies, as well as institutions that want to experiment with those different types of technologies.
Cool. And it's also listed in Korean exchange as well, right?
That's right, yes. We are on Upbit and Bitsum as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Then let's go a bit deeper. Every project has risk. So in your view, what are the biggest risks or challenges ahead of ZeroG?
So the way we think about it is there is controllable and uncontrollable risks. So uncontrollable risks are things like market timing and market sentiment, and so we don't worry too much about that. The market is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
Controllable risks, so we are very mission driven. Our mission is to make AI a public good. And in order to make AI a public good, we need to have a vibrant ecosystem. And so all of our focus right now is going into building a real sustainable ecosystem. Because what we've observed often in Web3 is if it's too incentive driven, the moment the incentives dry up, people leave. And so we need an actual long-term kind of customer base that really believes in utilizing this technology for mission-critical applications.
Cool. Then beyond the technology side, there are always things like regulation, governance, or any social trust issues as well. We're wondering, what keeps you up at night recently?
I mean, about a year ago, I think there was some attempt to basically outlaw open source AI. And so things like that would be very detrimental for human progress, in my view. And so those types of things are basically life-threatening to something like what we're building because it's fundamentally open source built. And yeah, so that's a piece of regulation that we'd be worried about. Yeah.
Then looking further ahead, we want to know what is your long-term vision for ZeroG as well, maybe within 10 years?
Yeah, we would love to see most mission-critical AI applications. And when I talk about mission-critical, I see it on a spectrum. So you've got individual use cases like write a research report, order a pizza, to societal level use cases like run an airport, run manufacturing facilities. And for those, most of these or even all of these should be run on decentralized AI technology to be ultimately safe and transparent and verifiable for human beings. And so in 10 years, I would love to see most of these mission critical applications to be run on ZeroG infrastructure.
But also for AI industry side, recently, in the Wall Street, they're saying there's AI bubble theory as well. Any personal opinion on that?
I mean, there's a lot of memes around how, for example, NVIDIA works with OpenAI, works with Oracle. So it's like this whole this kind of loop, basically. My view on it is that sometimes valuations may get ahead of where the actual cash flows are, but that long term, it's very much a sustainable trend. And so the world is moving into an AI-enabled world. And so if you think about AI, AI fundamentally is intelligence. And so my whole argument has been that the marginal cost of intelligence is being driven towards zero with AI. Blockchains are providing a distribution mechanism where the marginal cost of distribution becomes effectively zero. And then similarly, clean energy provides that from a power perspective. And so all of a sudden you're in an economic system where supply starts becoming more and more infinite around these types of things. And so what many people predict is that potentially in 2 generations, we may not have to work for a living anymore, or that worldwide GDP can increase tenfold because now we have all of this kind of labor and intelligence at our disposal that's correctly distributed. And so I'm super excited about this world, and I think next 10 years will bring a lot of prosperity.
Okay.
Of course, there may be short-term gyrations, but
yeah, still a lot of things coming.
yes.
Yeah. Then finally, for our last question, since many Korean viewers and builders are watching this, do you have a message for our Korean crypto community?
Of course. We love our Korean community. It feels like my second home at this point. I'm here every month. And so this time we were joking, when apartment in Korea, in Seoul. So yeah, very excited about being here. We have Korean investors like Samsung Next, Nouns Capital, Leka Ventures. We've got Korean team members. We've made deep investments into different media partnerships. For example, we signed the biggest deal with Korea Blockchain Week ever, which was 3 years.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing a lot more of these types of partnerships as well. I was here this week to speak with a number of Korean companies about adoption, even with a congressman earlier this week. And so very much doing very deep investments into Korea. It feels like my second home at this point.
저희 이렇게 제로지 마이클 하인리히 대표님과 함께 AI 생태계 그리고 블록체인 기술이 결합됐을 때 어떤 변화가 또 산업을 뒤집어 놓을 수 있을지 구체적으로 이야기를 나눠봤습니다. 시청해주신 여러분 고맙습니다.